So once again, my name is Wayne. I'm happy to guest lecture this portion. I went through the course, the entire applied geron course, and I realized that this course, this master's course that you're doing, tries to give you some skills on top of knowledge, right? And then I went to the syllabus of this continuum of care, and then I see the words skill appear again, right? So what actually I hope to do today towards the maybe last 1/3 or last half, depending on how much time I can manage, is to actually get you people in class as well as people at home to practice some very practical, ready to use, immediately implementable practices, clinical skills. Yes, geropsychological skills. I'm a geropsychologist, right? That you could use, right? Well, I won't say you would use to a very high proficiency, no, but I know many of you are in healthcare background. You might be a social worker, a nurse, I don't know. Is any physician here? Right, you may be a researcher, right? But I believe a good number of you are caregivers in some way. Hands up if you're a caregiver. You consider yourself a caregiver, your family member or relative or friend or somebody. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many hands up at home? I don't see any hands up at home. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So far none yet. Oh, 3, 4, 3. Okay, thank you very much for participating at home. So about half of us, right, consider yourself caregivers. And I'm happy to deliver this topic. I just thought it is necessary for this course, and I happen to know a friend who has graduated from this master's course and who shares with me that in the previous runs, informal caregiving somehow hasn't been covered, and it is kind of not easy to find, I guess, material or evidence or research in this area. So I really hope to contribute, and I really hope that you'll be interested in this area. I am a caregiver myself too. I have a dad, 1945, how old is that? 75 years old. He had a series of TIA, transient ischemic attack, or mini strokes, such that one side, his left side, is weaker but not paralyzed than the right side. And that came about a year before, last March. And that, unfortunately, is due to a cervical spine deformity, right, that he grew up with, which did not hamper or impair his functions until last year. So the doctors, after reviewing MRI and various things, told us, Mr. Chong, as in told my dad, Mr. Chong, sorry, we cannot really cure you, but we can try to slow the progression of the decline. That means let your spine not compress so quickly and there was decline in its function so much. And so it's the C3 and the C4, if you know what that is, the cervical spine, which is near the top, right? C1 is the highest. It's kind of compressed. This whole area is supposed to be quite neat and tidy, right? But for my dad, it's just, like a mesh of, I don't know how to call it, the nerves and the bone and various tissues there. So that gave rise to breathing problem, respiratory problem. So now you can imagine COVID-19 is a respiratory problem. So he's considered a high-risk person. Not only that, a pre-existing condition, lung function impairment. So his lung capacity is less than us, So it became a point where my brother who stays with him, my brother isn't married, my brother who stays with him considered employing a domestic helper, and we had several discussions on that. And cut a long story short, it was a challenging transition from staying alone to staying with, well, a stranger, right? 2 men at home, brother and father, now with a woman, speak a different language from another nationality or country, right? Supposed to care very intimately, or care for those very intimate things like bathing and toileting of my dad. So you could imagine, well, the physical things aside, you know that, but the emotional aspects, the thinking or the mental aspects of things. So I realized as a caregiver, I had to do a lot of listening. I had to do a lot of communicating. My dad, my brother, both of them. My dad, somebody else. Almost like I'm an interchange in some way. I'm not there in the house. I have my own home. I have a kid. So I also begin to see myself as belonging to this group called the sandwich generation. I have a child 1.5 years right now, right? So I have a dad 75 years. Both requires care in different ways, right? So there is an emerging generation here in Singapore and many parts of Asia and in fact in the world called the sandwich generation. And many of these people are kind of in their, you can say, middle adulthood, right? Some even in their early adulthood, and as you will see later on when we talk about the caregiver profile. And it is difficult. I dare not say this the same for people who stay in rural places. But for us who are used to urban living, right, built up areas, we know that we don't just work on, say, we don't just work for subsistence, right? So there are several requirements or what we perceive as requirements of us, right? In the family, as an individual, in the society, and so on. And these, I realize, have become many of the teething issues that that hamper communication in the family, which then in turn affects, or should I say influence, right, the way care is provided, the way care is received, the way care is understood in the home in an informal setting. So I'd just like to share this part here. So I'm with you, and there isn't really a lot of research that we could depend on informal caregiving. Like we like to ask the question of how, right? How do I better care for 75-year-old father with stroke and so on and so forth? How? Right? We like to ask, how do I better talk to him? What if he becomes so stubborn? So how do I? What words should I use in this situation? What physical expression should I take or adopt? What body language should I portray, for instance? I cannot guarantee you I can tell you all these things by the end of tonight, but there is really a realm out there called geropsychology, right? Which I come from. Geropsychology, the psychology of older adults, study issues related to the process of becoming old, the various states and stages, if you like, of older age, right? And then right up to end of life, right? The psychology of that bit. So this, what I'm sharing with you, really, I would say, is a very, you can say, introductory, information or knowledge that I believe should be shared to as many people as possible in health and social care. In Singapore, in Hong Kong, in many parts of Asia, at least, we will see the aging tsunami, right? Early days, in years to come. So I hope that this prepares you. So I've okay. So as part of the organization, I also conduct. So aside from conducting research, I also conduct training. So I actually do both. Later on, I'll share 1 or 2 pieces of my research in the area of the geropsychology, right? She has read 1 piece of my research done earlier on before this company was established. It really was this, my friend and I, towards the end of my Ph.D. studies, right, kind of asked me this. So after you graduate, what are you going to do next? Right. So you're going to be a geropsychologist. So who is going to employ you? Right? So who is going to employ you? So such that every day, day in, day out, you only see older people as your clients for depression, anxiety, mental health, dementia. Only older people. Actually, no. We don't have an aged clinic in Singapore. We have child guidance clinic. Yes, we have addictions clinic in Singapore. Yeah, IMH has that. We don't have a what do you call that? geriatric psychology clinic, never mind geropsychology, but geriatric, that means in a hospital setting, the geriatric unit dedicated to, right? That we don't have. We do have gerontological counseling provided in some family service centers and volunteer welfare organizations. SAGE counseling does a fair bit of that. Anybody from that? SAGE counseling services, right? No, okay. But from what I know, even SAGE counseling services cannot really say that a majority, more than 50% of their caseload, right, are older adults and or their caregivers or family members. Yeah, that's the situation here. So at that point, so that's one bit. The other bit is this: there are many, there are many family members who actually may not want to go for counseling because many of us just don't think we need that, right? However, it is good to know a tip here and there how to talk to obstinate older folks. It's good to know a few tips and tricks, if you like, how to say, observe, right? How to kind of tell whether this, my father or my mother, is suffering from dementia or normal memory loss, age-related memory loss. Right? How to tell the apart between, say, depression and dementia, or cognitive impairment, so to speak. Right? So there is room there, we realize, where just many of our families in Singapore could be trained, could be taught not just the knowledge, but also trained in the skills of differentiating these. Perhaps not at the professional level, that's okay, but just sufficient. Right? Just sufficient to be able to have a greater, at least an improved well-being at home, both for himself, herself, as well as the older person at home. So that's one of the things that I do really. We have caregiver psychosocial training courses, home-based, that means like individual consultancy, as well as classroom-based, probably not so big. We try to limit to about 10 to 15 right, in a workshop where we teach them some of these skills. My colleagues said, right? I put my professional online profiles there, so you can click on it anytime you would like to find out some of the research I did, some of the ongoing training programs that I might have. Okay, I've shared my personal caregiving journey already. So these are just some photos, just to show you the spectrum of things I do. So the first one on the top left, I was at IMH talking to a group of really nothing to do with aging, but they just needed somebody to talk about, say, mental health awareness. Yeah, so we kind of diversified even until there. Well, because we are new, we were set up only 2017. My friend calls the shop, you can say the major investor, right? I do the work, so to speak, right? I'm the first, you can say, the day-to-day, first-hand account of happenings will come to me, and then, right, I will report to him. The next photo is a secondary school talk, Admiralty Secondary School, if I'm not wrong. I was asked there to share about the developmental pathway, professional pathway of a geropsychologist. But when I say I'm a geropsychologist, everybody, huh? Yeah, that's right. Nobody even understood, even heard of that. And then when I asked them to do just Google, they actually did that, on their phone, geropsychologist. And guess what? Autocorrect become neuropsychologist. So sorry, I cannot find even on Google because autocorrect the neuropsychologist. I just said sorry. It's a very, very new field, even in the world, even to Google. That's right. That's one of the things I do to talk to people about what I do actually. That is a VWO organization. These two photos seem it's about I think about 200 people. I think maybe 100 people. They're having some kind of dinner and Chinese New Year celebration. But because the attendees are old folks, so they got me to do some of those. To do one very short intervention. It's called mindfulness meditation. Anybody heard of this? Mindfulness? Anybody? You did? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll try some of this, but we'll try some of these, and later on, I plan, you will see in my slides, right? One of my slides has to do with mindfulness, and see if we could actually get its benefits right here, and train yourself enough such that you can even use this with your own folks at home. The one, the center is a conference in Jakarta, no, in Purwokerto, Indonesia. And then, yeah, the other one is a workshop on systematic reviews. That's a research method that I do as part of the research. So the work is very broad. It's a very new field. I cannot say I really subspecialize in one or the other. It's just not practicable at this point of the development of the field, both internationally as well as in Singapore. So some of you might have seen this. You could go to the NTU library and download these. Some of the articles I have written or co-wrote with other colleagues, which are based on research. Okay, so I talked about this.